think the right word is is forward. We're moving forward. It's a direction in and of itself. It's a pace, and we just had. Thursday night, our first counting competition with women's soccer beating UMass, one of my alma maters, UMass 3-1. So we're off and running, and it really is about looking forward. But forward is always informed by the past, and certainly it's been a challenging and difficult year and a half. But as an optimist, I think you look at it as how much we've learned, and we've learned a lot. And as much as I want to, and we want to go back to something more familiar and more typical, I think it would be a huge mistake for us not to make sure that we bring with us into that forward movement everything that we've learned, and certainly some of the specifics around the health and safety standards and COVID and the pandemic are necessary from a health and safety standpoint, but even other things that we've learned about ourselves and about each other and about where we are as a society and a world, I think are really important for us to take with us. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention it every opportunity, and obviously this is a big opportunity, but just how appreciative I am of our staff, our coaches, our student athletes. They've just been terrific and really responsible around health and safety and taking the pandemic seriously, and particularly with our students, they're 17 to 22-year-olds, so that doesn't mean it's without some incident, but in the main, really focused on their ability to compete and their ability to get a Penn State education, which is what they came here for. So I'm very appreciative. A lot of hard work by our staff and coaches, a lot of support from our university and our community, and so very appreciative for Dr. Barron's support and that of our community. Probably in that forward look, what we're most excited about is welcoming fans back. They're such a huge part of who we are and how we do what we do and the success that we've historically had. So looking forward to that. And I know from the interactions that I've had that they are they're excited to be back too. And so looking forward to that. From a health and safety standpoint, we are really looking at for the last 18 months. It's been COVID's been the umbrella, and everything else we do is kind of plugged into that. I think we're shifting that a little bit, and again, looking at something more familiar to what is typical for us, and then making sure, obviously, that the health and safety standards plug into that and are part of everything we do. A couple of just the last things that are kind of today's topics: name, image, and likeness. That the NCAA, and in our case, the state of Pennsylvania, launched on July 1st. Our program is called Statement. Make your statement, and it's really focused on entrepreneurship. Yes, it enables our student athletes to accrue benefits at this point in their lives and their careers, but it's also focused on making sure that they acquire skills that will help benefit them for a lifetime. And we just believe that really fits what Penn State has always done with our student development and welfare programs and our life skills, et cetera. So excited about that, and again, like everything we do, excited about the role that 750,000 living alumni will play on that. I mean, that's Penn State's advantage. That's our student athletes' advantage in almost everything, whether it be fans in the stands cheering them on, whether it be career opportunities, or in this specific case, it be the opportunity to capitalize on their name, image, and likeness. And then finally, just the latest example of Penn State having an opportunity to shine on the worldwide stage, and that would be the 2020 Tokyo Olympics that took place in 2021. But obviously, our four gold medalists, our silver medalist, and our bronze medalist, and then for me, I think it's crazy that coaches don't get medals. But obviously, we had an alumni coach in women's basketball with Japan and Tom Hovas and then Erica Dombach with USA Women's Soccer, and then obviously our entire wrestling staff with USA Wrestling, frankly, with both Penn State alums as well as the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club. So just it's a pretty prominent example. It's a huge example. It's one we're very proud of. Obviously, the role I play with the Collegiate Advisories Council with the USOC connects me a little bit more closely with the USOPC, but a shining moment for Penn State with the Olympics. So I could go on and on about how excited I am about certain things, and certainly some challenges as well as successes at Penn State. But I know you guys, men and women, want to get to your questions, so we'll let KP guide us through that.
Absolutely. We will be going through the RSVP question list. We'll start with Mark Brennan from Lions 247 with Fight on State, and then we'll go to Greg Pickle.
You with us, Mark?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was playing mute unmute with Chris there. I was a little quick on the trigger finger. I apologize. Thanks for doing this, Sandy.
All good. All good. Glad to see your reflexes are still intact.
Well, not really. But hey, has the Big Ten decided how it's going to handle games that may be canceled due to COVID? Are forfeits in play? And what is Penn State's take and your take on how that should be handled?
Yeah, I don't know whether the Big Ten. I apologize. I was on a trip late in the week. I know we've discussed it, and I think we're very close. And I don't think you'll. I think there'll probably be some subtle differences between what you've seen from some of the other conferences. But essentially, we will revert back to what our forfeiture policy has always been as a conference. And I think although perhaps not ideal given the seriousness, obviously, of the health and science nature of COVID. It's probably the right thing to do.
Greg Pickle, and then we'll go to Audrey Snyder.
Good afternoon, Sandy. Thanks for doing this.
Absolutely, Greg. Good to see you. All I see is Greg Pickle. So.
Yeah, the screen recording doesn't allow to turn the camera on. Fans are going to be obviously back at Beaver Stadium here in less than a month. What do they need to know when they come from a health and safety perspective? Some schools have mandated vaccines or negative COVID tests. Will Penn State do that? And then what other things should they know, be it mask indoors or things of that nature?
Yeah, that's the required vaccination is not in our plan at this point. We've been following the CDC, and you all know quite well what we've done as a campus as it relates to masking indoors. I think from what our fans can look forward to seeing is there are several kinds of adjustments, if you will, as they relate to COVID, but frankly, they also relate just to overall experience for our fans. We've expanded some of our gates to make the entry not only more expeditious just overall, but also again from a COVID standpoint in terms of not standing in lines, magnetometers to make that go more swiftly. We certainly are. We've been doing this for several years, but we certainly are encouraging our fans to get in earlier. Again, to try to limit the times that we've got significant lines and perhaps congestion, as you might call it, at our gates. I mean, let's face it, we're trying to get 107,000 people in, so we need the biggest solution there is to try to spread that out over time. So whether it's playing games on the video board, if we're a game later in the day, or it's trying to incentivize and encourage folks from a concession standpoint, we're going to do everything we can to spread that out so that we don't have congestion. Again, some construction at our gate E. I think fans will really appreciate that. Those that would be entering in that section. Certainly, if we're not going to require masking outdoors unless the CDC were to change its guidance, we certainly would monitor and review that. But if someone feels that that's what they want to do from a health and safety standpoint, wear a mask, that certainly is encouraged.
Audrey Snyder, The Athletic, and then we'll go to Rich Scarcella.
Hey, Sandy. I wanted to ask you kind of about the potential ripple effect here with Texas and Oklahoma. Do you feel like the Big Ten aligns well with the Pac-12 and ACC specifically? And would that be a good fit should that alliance come to fruition?
I think that this is a really interesting time as it relates to what you're calling the ripple effect from Texas and Oklahoma. I don't know that you've seen much ripple yet. I think this is different from some of the other expansion periods that we've experienced. I know the Big Ten feels like it's in a really good place. But having said that, whether it's this week or last week or something after the Oklahoma and Texas announcement, or it's the 2 months prior to that. It's something that I know since I came back to the conference in 2014, and leaving one of those other conferences, that we've certainly been paying attention to, and it's all about what brings value. And I'm not just talking about money. Certainly money is important, but I'm not just talking about money. What institutions or what steps that we could take would bring value to our conference. And I do think that there are conferences out there that could bring value from a monetary standpoint, particularly speaking about our television contract and our television revenues, but also from, you all know the importance of to us and to the Big Ten of kind of this concept around like-minded institutions. The Big Ten really prides itself on being more than just an athletics conference in terms of our provosts get together. We share some library resources, some other academic resources. If you look at that footprint of Pac-12, ACC, and Big Ten, I think the number is 40. Or no, it's 40% of the AAU membership lies in those three conferences. So I think there are, again, I'm not trying to downplay the importance of value as it relates to upsizing our revenues. That absolutely certainly is important, but that's not the only reason. And I think that there are some reasons around like-mindedness that would be very valuable to the conference.
We'll go to Rich Scarcella, and then we'll go to Heather Dinich.
Hi, Sandy. How are you?
There he is on the screen. Rich, good to see you.
Good to see you as well. I just want to clarify something. Will fans be required to wear masks in the concourses, at concession stands, restrooms, that sort of thing at games? And also, just to clarify, the capacity crowds, that's not changing. You're going with capacity crowds.
We are planning. Our plan is for capacity. I remember last spring saying we want to get to the point where everyone who wants and can get a ticket can come in, and that's where we stand right now. To your first question about masking, we consider the concourses an outdoor area, an open air area, and that obviously we rely upon the medical experts, and it's about airflow, etc. The indoor areas in our suite tower and our press tower are considered indoor and will require mask wearing.
Heather Dinich, and then we'll go to Mike Porman.
Hey, Sandy, what are your lingering concerns that you have as far as it relates to the football season? Can you hear me?
Yeah, Heather, you're kind of garbled.
I'm asking if you can say what concerns do you have as far as it still relates to COVID and the football season, and if you can share what the vaccination rate is for the team. I don't know if you've said that.
Got it. Yeah, my concerns are the same as that we all have for our community, and that we be smart and we use good judgment as it relates to the science. But we're seeing literally all over the world, where fans are coming back together, and we're seeing very little COVID related issues. So I'm very hopeful and forward thinking, and forward looking as it relates to us being back together with our fans that we've missed so desperately, and I know they've missed our student athletes. As it relates to vaccine rate, not unlike what we did a year ago with our testing rates, we are not going to be in the game or in the habit of putting out our team vaccination rates, team by team rates. I will do today. I will give you today our departmental rate it's a combined students and our tier one employees. And as we stand today, that is at 82.2% for those folks. And that does not include as fully vaccinated some of our folks some of our students in particular, that we do know have received their first vaccine and have not yet received their second. So they're not categorized as fully vaccinated. So obviously we know that 82.2 already will move up, is guaranteed to move up. And then certainly we believe that more and more will continue to make the decision to get vaccinated. So we sit at 82.2 today. This is the only time, since we give you all a benchmark, this is the only time that we as a department will be talking about these figures. Again, will not our coaches and other staff members will not be talking about program by program. Certainly, if individuals want to tell you that they're vaccinated or that they're not, or that they're not going to talk about it, all of those are choices. They can do that, but we won't be talking about it on a program by program basis. Again, not dissimilar to what we did with testing last year.
Mike Portman, then we'll go to Corey Geiger.
Thanks, Chris. Hi, Sandy. How are you?
Mike, I'm good. I love that view.
Yeah, I do too. Thanks. Do you think Penn State ICA is fully meeting its Title IX obligations to your women athletes, especially in comparison to your Big Ten brethren? And can you note any progress you've made in that direction since you came aboard in 2014? Thanks.
Yeah, that's a great question, and I don't think it's ever met. I think it's always a work in progress, and obviously, as you're very well aware, because you're well versed in this. There are a number of different buckets as it relates to Title IX, and one of them is what are the benefits that our students, that in this case the underrepresented sex, or our female students. Someday the underrepresented sex will be men, I promise. Are we providing them on a day-to-day basis with quality coaching, with facilities, with modes of travel? They call it the laundry list. And again, I think that's something that needs care and feeding every day. But I feel very good about where we are there. The other kind of prominent one is the participation rates, and that's one where I think we've struggled. The thing I feel good about is that even though we probably have not met the numbers that we need to meet strict proportionality, it's not because female student athletes haven't had an opportunity. Our women's programs are never capped. They're actually given floors as targets to help us try to get to the numbers where we need to be from a proportionality standpoint. But I know in my time, and I don't believe I've ever heard in anything that preceded me, that we've ever capped our women's programs. So it's not. We need to keep working at it. We need to really think about how we get to that better place in terms of proportionality. Now we're as an institution, I think we're 54 men, 46, it is a challenge for us because we've got 16 men's sports, we've got 15 women's. Maybe that needs to change. I will say this: I want to fulfill our obligations from a Title IX standpoint, and more importantly to me, our obligations to our female student athletes. by providing them more opportunities and not reducing or impacting the men's side. But you make a great point, because it is, particularly given our number of programs and the nature of our programs, it's something that is a challenge for us. Back to your question, there are a number of things that we've done just in everyday kind of making sure as we check and make sure that things are equitable, whether it's bringing some of our charter opportunities for our women's programs up to snuff, or up to equal balance, or getting closer there, whether it has to do with when we made a decision to do cost of attendance, making sure that was equitably distributed with all of our women's programs. I'm sure there are some additionals, but those are some of the ones that come to mind.
Corey Geiger, then we'll go to Ben Jones.
Hi, Sandy. Will Penn State...
Corey,
hi.
How you doing?
Good. Will Penn State be releasing the financial terms of Micah Shrewsbury's contract? And another part of that is, why does the university reveal the football coach's contract terms, but not the men's basketball coach?
That's our policy. Those are where we are from either a requirement standpoint, or we're certainly meeting our requirements. We will not be the two contracts that we have stated over and over again that we would make public are the head football coach and athletic director.
Thank you.
Ben Jones, and then we will stay on the Jones train and go to Dave.
Hey, Sandy, how's it going?
Good, Ben. How are you?
No complaints. I have a hockey question for you because, of course, the women's hockey program had a lot of success last year in a conference that is nationally not considered to be one of the strongest. The future of Robert Morris hockey is sort of up in the air right now, and they have been traditionally one of the better teams in that league. Do you think you can have success in women's hockey in the CHA, and is there a conversation about sort of what happens next if Robert Morris isn't back for good?
Yes, and yes. I actually do. I think the access to the NCAs is a really important thing, and we certainly have that in the CHA. Really proud of Coach Campersall and the young women in that program, and the year that they did have. Obviously, a breakthrough year for them, and we expect that moving forward. Having said that, what you referenced with Robert Morris certainly gives us whether it's cause for concern or opportunity to make sure that we understand what the landscape looks like and what our options might be. You all know us well enough to know that we're kind of constantly doing that everywhere in everything, and so we'll be analyzing what's always the best for that particular program. I mean, obviously we've got men's volleyball, our two fencing programs, and women's hockey that are not in the Big Ten, and so those are constant conversations.
Dave Jones, and then we'll go to Travis Johnson.
Hi, Sandy.
There he is. Dave, how are you?
How are you? Oregon and Oregon State yesterday announced that they would mandate vaccination proof in order to enter their events. This conversation has obviously been had at Penn State among you and administrators. What was the rationale for not requiring vaccination proof? And is this position intractable or malleable in the future?
Yeah, let me answer the last part first, and that is, and I think Penn State has proven throughout the course of the last 18 months that it's constantly making sure that it's watching the landscape and watching the science and the statistics, and we will continue to do that from a required vaccination standpoint. And I'm certainly speaking more broadly as it relates to campus. Our campus leaders leadership, our board, really felt like the position that we've taken is one that balances to the highest degree health and safety, as well as kind of personal choice and individual liberties, if you will. I think it's really interesting that as I've kind of looked at this the last week or so, there are lots of places that are saying, and I'm talking about higher ed, but actually, as I say this, I'm also talking about organizations, companies that looked a little bit into that are saying they're requiring vaccination. But when you dig into it, yes, we're requiring vaccination. But if you don't get vaccinated, you'll need to be tested regularly. Well, that's exactly what Penn State is doing. We are saying that if you are not vaccinated, you need to test. And I find it interesting that others are saying that's vaccination required. So I think Penn State's done a great job of balancing obviously the health and safety needs, as well as everything else that's going on in our world right now.
We realize Travis Johnson's not on the call, so New Bias, we'll give you a second to prepare yourself. But you're up, New Bias, and then we'll go to John Sauber.
All right. Are we live here?
We got you, New Bias. There we go.
Hey,
all right.
There we go. Standing pleasure to see you. Hopefully get to shake your hand one day. But from there, one thing, can you clarify? I didn't understand. Will there or won't there be forfeits?
Yeah, so back to the first. It is my understanding that we will, as a conference, will revert back to our regular forfeiture policy, and that is if an institution is not able to essentially show for the game for the contest, that it will be a forfeit. And then I'm sorry, New Bias, what was the second part of your question? Oh, sorry. We'll unmute you, promise.
My apologies. I was a little jumbled there. While I was asking this overall, what are the biggest challenges from the city perspective as well as stadium-wise from hosting that many people, considering what's going on with the mutations of the COVID and everything?
Yeah, I think it's a matter of us all being really smart and understanding that the virus in some way, shape, or form is still with us. Again, I'm heartened by the fact that whether it's Major League Baseball or some others that are hosting events with large crowds and without to date major incidents. I do think it's important that that we as event planners and we as event organizers and runners, that's not the right term, but running events, we can't act like it's not happening. We have to be conscious. Again, it's kind of my original description about it's no longer COVID as the overarching. It's we're having the event and we've got to plug the COVID considerations into it. I certainly would encourage as many as, and I know there are lots of folks out there that are, to be vaccinated. I would encourage folks that want to wear masks to certainly do that. It's not required, but I certainly don't want someone that wants to wear a mask to feel like that they're going to be looked at strangely. That's completely up to you whether you want to or you don't want to. And I think we just have to be smart and understand that the virus is with us, and we need to use our good judgment around that. But come to Beaver Stadium and enjoy a football Saturday for the first time in a couple of years.
John Sauber, Center Daily Times. Then we'll go to Jerry DePaula.
Hi, Sandy. You mentioned being malleable with your planning. Is it possible for that full capacity plan to change? And if so, what markers are you using to determine any potential changes?
Yeah, I mean, I think flexibility. Your word, malleable, is something that certainly has to go along with a public health issue like COVID. Again, it's not the plan at this point. We would have to see what the advice was from the CDC and our local health authorities, and then what the issues are, whether it be okay, yes, capacity, but the local authorities or want to go to suggest that we go to mask wearing, or if it's something from a capacity standpoint. But that is not what the plans are at this point in time.
Jerry DePaula, and then we'll go to Dave Melandra.
Hello, Sandy. How are you today? Thank you for your time. I appreciate it very much.
Absolutely. Great to see you, Jerry.
I want a clarification, if I can, on your percentage, 82.2%. Is that 82.2% of all Penn State employees in all departments and students? Is that everybody?
No, that is athletic department specific, and that is our student athletes and what we consider to be our tier one employees. And that comes from that's a term that the Big Ten used last year. Those that were in our daily testing regime, the ones that have the daily contact with student athletes and with the programs.
Hey, thank you very much.
You're quite welcome.
Dave Melandra, USA Today, and then we'll go to John Teetle.
Hey, Sandy, got a couple of questions for you. One, if the state or the city comes down and says that capacity of Beaver Stadium this season will have to be reduced, how quickly in advance will you notify those season ticket holders and those fans that have tickets for those games about the attendance being dropped? And secondly, for the basketball and hockey season, will fans attending those games require a negative test to attend?
Let me take your last one first, because that is right now the only change for indoor is the mask wearing requirement. So no, there would be no vaccine or negative test requirement for. I think you referenced basketball and hockey. And then your first question, this is one of those places where what we've learned, and obviously last year we went through a ton of planning for different capacity sizes, which we still have. That's not been forgotten or thrown out. Doesn't mean we won't have to shift and pivot and make some really tough decisions quickly. But again, that's not what we're planning. That's not what you're seeing out there. But we will obviously, from a health and safety standpoint, continue to monitor and look at the advice from both local as well as national and worldwide as it relates to what's in the public health's best interest.
John Teetle, Hoops HD, and then John Petishnak.
Thanks, Christina. Good afternoon, Ms. Barbour. I wanted to congratulate you on your appointment to the Constitution Committee a couple of weeks ago. And my questions about that, what do you dislike the most about the current governance model? And what are you most excited to have included in the new governance model?
I appreciate the congratulations. Are we sure that's what it is? But what I dislike right now is and I think it's what we're all looking at really, really heavily, and that is that decisions seem so separated from the boots on the ground, and probably. And I started to say it, and not necessarily is what I love the most, but it actually is. There has been so much progress in I would say, the last 5 years as it relates to the student athlete voice. In the process, I think that's so important. They're not the be all and the end all. They're not, 17 to 22-year-olds don't have the experience that the rest of us have. But that also doesn't mean we totally shut it out. Their voice has to be there. And I've seen it. I've seen it as the chair of the FOC. I've seen it in some of my other committee work, both at the conference level and at the NCAA level. Their voice matters, and it has to be heard. Doesn't mean it has to be absolutely taken, but it has to be put into the mix. So that's probably the question for both. But I'm to both the dislike and the like. What I'm what I'm really looking forward to is I look around. We had our first Zoom call on Tuesday, I think it was, and I look around that. That Zoom screen and all of the experience, and I also know most of those people, whether they be presidents or athletic directors or others, as people that aren't afraid to put their voices out there. I think maybe that's why we were chosen. And I don't think this is going to be kind of nibbling at the edges. I think it's going to be bold. Now, I hope I don't have to retract that statement, right? And I am very impressed. Secretary Gates will lead. He will lead decisively, and I'm excited to do the work in the next few months under his leadership.
Our final two questions will go to John Petishnock and then Daniel Gallen.
Hey, good afternoon, Sandy. How are you doing today?
Doing well, and yourself?
I'm doing well. Appreciate the time.
Yeah.
Hey, you mentioned the opening women's soccer match, and you also mentioned the Olympics, and that leads into my question. When you look at Erica Dombach behind the scenes and off the field, what is it about her that tells you she's a leader, and what do you see that has propelled her to have as much success as she's had, not just at Penn State, but globally as well?
Yeah, Erica, and I hesitate to say this because we've got so many talented coaches, and so maybe I create a category here. We've got so many coaches that are incredibly talented and have had such great success, but Erica certainly is in that top category for us. So, and it's certainly she's technically sound, but she's a fit for Penn State. She believes in Penn State. She believes in who we are, what we stand for, what our values are. She recruits the right young women into that. She demands excellence from them, both athletically and academically and socially. And she's not afraid to hold them accountable. She's not afraid to hold herself accountable, and she's not afraid to be. To evolve. She's not the coach today that she was 15 years ago. Student athletes aren't the same student athletes that they were 15 years ago. And she and her staff, she's got an incredible staff. She's surrounded herself with great people, and they're not afraid to evolve as well, and do it in a way that benefits students. And and here at Penn State, when you benefit students, you benefit the university and you benefit the community. So. All of that, Erica is absolutely one of our finest. I love working with her. I love how she leads the program. She leads it with conviction. I think that's probably the number one thing. She knows who she is. She knows what's important to her, and she leads with conviction and makes sure that everyone involved in the program, most importantly, student athletes, understand that.
And our final question will go to Daniel Gallen, Penn Live.
Hey, Sandy. Nice to meet you.
How are you?
Doing well. Over the past year, we've seen how things can change very quickly, when it comes to the virus. We saw it at the Big Ten level last August. Given the past year, how confident are you in the ability of the Penn State athletic department, and then on a larger scale, the Big Ten, potentially the NCAA, to be able to make changes quickly, to adapt quickly based on kind of what you've learned this past year?
Yeah, I have a high degree of confidence in that. Let's face it. You think about spring of 2020 and summer of 2020. This was all really new to us. I kept looking in my office for the pandemic manual, couldn't find it. Thought maybe the last athletic director or several athletic directors ago would have left it for me, but they didn't. And we think about how much we've learned. You referenced some of the decisions from a Big Ten standpoint. We also had a brand new commissioner who had just taken over full time in 2020. He's learned a lot. We've learned a lot about him, and so all of that, given some of the resources and the expertise that we've pulled in, the things we've learned, the things we know now from a science standpoint that we didn't know then, the fact we have a vaccine, the fact that all the things that we've learned, that maybe we're going to have a booster here, that we have that at one point in time it was 18 or 16 and above, and now it's pretty much 12 and above. So we're there's so much that's different, that's on that that forward scale, that's better, that I do have a high degree of confidence. I think the Olympics was a bellwether for me, and albeit certainly recognize that they did it without spectators, so that is a significant difference. But here's a worldwide stage, in this case located in Tokyo, that they'd been concerned about getting up off the ground, and there were some challenges at the beginning, but they had the opportunity to adjust, got it addressed, and they just pulled off the biggest sporting event, in that the Olympics is the largest sporting event in the world. And so all of that gives me confidence. Not that that we won't have to adjust. We probably will in some way, shape, or form, but that we'll be able to, and that it will properly address, so that again we can get back to something that's more familiar for us as a country. And again, you're seeing that right now with some of the professional sports and that are taking place with crowds, and we certainly saw it, from an Olympic standpoint. So we're prepared to adjust and pivot and be flexible, and get done what we need to get done.
Thank you very much, Sandy. Thanks everybody for joining us this morning. Appreciate your, or this afternoon, I suppose it is now.